With the labor shortage in Calgary, it's a big issue for employers these days, employee engagement and retention. And our next guest has some answers on that, how to deal with that. His name is Gerry Madigan, and he has just released a book called the TMI 20-Minute Interview. Hi, Gerry.
Hi.
Going to start, just tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I've been involved in this sort of training for probably about 20 years, mainly in leadership development and management skills training. And I think the idea for this, I implemented this probably about 1992 with some companies, and it was really to address some of the issues in the workplace.
Okay, so prior to the whole labor crunch, really.
Yeah, prior to it, yeah, but I think the same issues were there all the time, you know. When you're dealing with people, you have to recognize that they're not machines, they're human beings, and they need the human contact. You need to actually talk with people. I know in this day and age where we have so many high-tech communications and things, I think we've never been so disconnected as human beings, where the personal touch is there. And I think what we're doing here is we're focusing on not so much the mind to mind, but the heart to heart, and having a heart to heart conversation. That's really the essence of the TMI.
Okay, so sitting down with the employee and chatting with them, and so what do you tell people?
Well, I think we have to recognize that every employee has rights that some of them can only be addressed through effective feedback. They need to know, how am I doing, what are the expectations you have of me, and what can I do to improve my performance. And you need to have this conversation to be able to get that across effectively. The feedback has to be both ways, of course. You know, you have to hear from the person, and then you have to give this feedback. But they all want to know that. They all want to know, how am I doing, what are the expectations, and what can I do to improve? So that's the beginning of the TMI. So you're getting exclusive time. You know, time is such a precious thing, but we forget sometimes that the most valuable commodity or the most valuable asset in any company is its people. That's the heart of the organization. Right. So what the TMI does is it's addressing the heart, and it's keeping your finger on the pulse of your organization, so that you really know how people are feeling, what they're thinking. There are three different levels: on a rational level, on an emotional level, and on a motivational level. If you get to know your people, then you get to really have your finger on the pulse. If you don't know them on either of those three levels, you don't really have your finger on the pulse.
Right. So when people think of retaining employees, oftentimes they think salary, those kinds of things, but that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, it's not. So many people, when you ask that question, why do people leave? They say, oh, it's just for more money. Well, all the studies that we've seen over the last 10 or 15 years have shown otherwise, that no, money may be a factor somewhere down the line, but it's not the primary factor. They say people don't leave their jobs, they don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses, or they quit their organizations. And I think when you ask, how do you attract and retain the right people? I think you do that by creating a nourishing workplace as opposed to a toxic workplace. And in the course of conducting lots of exit interviews, I found that people say they're leaving. Why? Because the atmosphere is toxic. I say, well, why is it toxic? And well, because of the behavior and because of things that are let happen. So I think companies, if they focus on creating a nourishing workplace where people can grow and develop and they feel comfortable and they feel valued, well, then they're going to be the best ambassadors for your company. They'll go out and tell people. So you can put all the advertisements and everything all over the place and tell people this is a great place to work. But what people are doing now is they're asking, can I talk to somebody who's working for your company? And when they have this conversation, say, well, what's it like? And they'll tell you very quickly, it's great, or it's toxic, or it's nourishing. Right. And the aim is to create a nourishing workplace where they feel they can grow and feel valued.
Right, and things have totally changed in the work environment. It used to be that it was the employee having to impress the management or that person doing the hiring, and now it's kind of the other way around, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, when people are interviewing for a job, the company almost has to sell themselves to the person, because there's so many options out there, and especially with Generation Y that are becoming the dominant workforce. I think their expectations are very precise. They know exactly what they want, and they're looking. It's not so much the money. They want money. They want to be paid, but they want to look at the work-life balance. They want to look at flexibility. They want to look at a lot of other things besides that, and that's just getting them in the door. But when you have them in the door and you're working with them, If you just take them in and just put them into their little silos and you don't talk to them, they get very frustrated because they like to talk, they like to express themselves. And when you ask what's the voice of your organization, first of all, you have to find out they have to find out what their voice is. But once they have a voice, they want to express that voice. If they don't have any sort of channel to express that voice, they become very frustrated and they'll become disillusioned and they leave. They'll go somewhere else where they do feel valued and they do feel listened to.
Okay, so it has, you know, as you say, it's changed a lot, and it's only going to continue, isn't it?
It is, and I think what a lot of companies train managers. They send them off and they train them in coaching skills, they train them in management skills, they train them in communication skills. They come back to the office and they put their notes on the shelf and they get no opportunity to apply that. Now, they say that we lose about 80% of what we learn unless we actually apply it. But they don't have a structured process through which to apply that. And the TMI is simply that. It's a structured process of a small 10-minute conversation that you have with your employee, where you can apply those skills, you can hone those skills, you can develop those skills. And if you're looking at creating a high-performance organization, one of the bases, the foundations for that is trust. Now, you can't have trust without communication. So you have these 10-minute interviews regularly and consistently. You develop better rapport and you build the trust. Once you build the trust, you create synergy. Once you have the synergy going, you get the rhythm into the organization. The rhythm creates momentum. Momentum builds high performance. But without the very, very foundation of communication, you don't have it. And it can't happen otherwise.
Right.
You know, so it really starts with communication. It's not rocket science. It's a very simple concept when you think about it. We're really coming back to the simple art of face-to-face communication and conversation. You're asking, how are you doing? You know, anything I can do to help you?
Simple stuff.
Just the simple stuff.
Yeah.
But it has a powerful impact on the organization.
Right.
And you know, when you look back through history and the way companies have been transformed, they're the simple little things that make the huge difference. And this is one of them. Very easy to implement, very easy to apply, but the impact is huge, absolutely enormous.
Wow. Where can we find a copy of your book if we're interested in getting one?
Well, we've just published it now last week. It's in McNally Robinson here in Calgary. And you can purchase it online at the TMI.com. So it's available in the shops or it's available online.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Gerry. Interesting topic.
Thank you very much.
Gerry is going to be holding a one-day workshop at the Convention Centre on December 14th, and for details on it, log on to the website, thetmi.com. We're also giving away copies of his book. If you would like to win one, call 539-6640.